Welcome everybody. I'm just getting this set up right now. There we go. There we go. Welcome everybody. I'm back. I'm better. I'm ready to go. With all these retreats and guests and contests and stuff like that, we haven't had a real hangout in quite some time. So what we're going to do right now is go back to the way it used to be and have a hangout right now. We'll wait for some of the viewers to come on right now. And we're on Facebook Live and Google, actually it's YouTube Live. And also you can go to news.therawfoodworld.com/live to ask questions. This is the main page where I look the most here in Facebook. I don't look on YouTube. I don't even know how to do that. So there we go. This is a long question, and it's good because it's the very first one, and the viewers are building up. Okay, so Leah writes, I have a question. I'm currently just over 3 months pregnant. Have been vegetarian for over 10 years, but my body has been craving insane amounts of fruits and salads and seems to be the only thing I can keep down, which starts me thinking I might want to be vegan. This started a journey of immense research as I want to be optimally healthy while I grow a little human and raise an optimally healthy child moving forward. I came across a lot of information on the raw food movement, which brought me to your videos, and I've been indulging on the knowledge. I think it is all great. My question to you is, what advice or recommendations for optimal health and spirituality would you give to a pregnant woman? I do consume some dairy, oh there you go, and processed foods, which I'm committed to eliminating, but I think I will continue cooked foods. Good, at least for dinner, as I love to cook. My home cooking is mostly vegan except for certain fish or eggs. You are right on. I was kind of concerned you were saying you're a vegetarian, but you're eating eggs and fish and dairy. I'm hoping it's all the clean stuff that you get from the farmer, and it's not pumped with antibiotics and other things like that. And I'm quite good at it. It seems like you're rocking it. I mean, just, I'm also curious which of the superfoods you would recommend for a pregnant woman and which she should avoid. I would greatly appreciate your opinion on the topic, and I completely understand you are not giving medical advice. All the best. Okay, so my biggest recommendation would be make sure you're getting DHA and EPA, because DHA and EPA are responsible for brain development of the child, and you just want to have incredible amounts of that if possible, because if you're not giving them, if you're not consuming enough, the child will start taking it from the mama's brain, and that's why they get pregnancy brain, where they brain fog and stuff like that. So definitely DHA and EPA is the #1 thing that I would recommend for you. Getting in the sun is always important, and if you're not, then D3 would be good. What's up, Wendy? This is your public. Okay, there we go. But it seems like you're doing good. You want to eliminate the processed foods as soon as possible. And you say you're vegetarian, but you're eating eggs and fish, so you're not really vegetarian. Most people, vegetarians, don't necessarily always do too good because they load up on the foods that are more harmful to them. But it seems like you've got it down here. Just keep going. So DHA and EPA, we have a product called Omega Zen plus EPA, or just Omega Zen. Either one is good. And that would be my #1 recommendation. Yeah. Probiotics are good. Here we go. Fatima writes, hi Matt, maybe you remember I asked you if systemic enzymes could help in my situation, lump in breast with cell mutations. Well, I ordered them yesterday on your web shop, and I hope to get them soon. My first question, can I take them while breastfeeding my 3-year-old? My second question, can I do both the enzymes and enemas? Okay, so as you guys know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just here to share my information based off of experience. Before making any changes, I recommend talking to a healthcare practitioner. The number one thing that we want to watch out, we want to be handling to heal from certain issues is generally our diet. So I'm not sure what your diet's like, Fatima, but the number one thing that we want to be doing is eating a healthy diet, make sure we're getting the nourishment we need, try not to stress too much because that's like a big deal too. And yeah, so with that being said, I know many doctors that have used the systemic enzymes. You take them on an empty stomach. When taken on an empty stomach, they don't digest food. Instead, they go into the metabolic processes of the human body. This has been proven. They've taken radioactive particles to track their progress, and it shows it doing this. I've heard of naturopathic doctors giving people loads of systemic enzymes on an empty stomach to help with things like diseases like what you're mentioning. In terms of breastfeeding with children, I can't make any recommendations in regards to that type of thing. I don't see how harm can come about, but I would definitely talk to a healthcare practitioner before making any changes like that. Can you do both enzymes and enemas? Yeah, you can do that. Fatima, you've been around I've seen your name many times on the hangout and stuff like that. Like, are you eating healthily? Like, if you're going to be doing enzymes and enemas while at the same time eating poorly, then that's just like you're digging yourself into a ditch. Doing these things when you've had an improved diet is extremely beneficial on an ongoing basis. It's always good to do these things, whatever you're eating, but not always and forever. It's like you want to, if a person is doing processed foods, they can do a cleanse or something like this and it will help them. But if they're going to continue to eat processed foods and use enzymes and enemas to make up for their mistakes of eating poorly, it's almost like being a bulimic. It's like, and in the long run, it catches up with you. Number one, you become more sensitive when you do things like this. And then these foods that you're currently eating become more harmful to you when you become more sensitive. Kind of like when a person is on the standard American diet and they go to a cooked whole foods diet for a year and then they eat like pizza or something, they end up sick and vomiting because they've become sensitive now. The more those foods are more damaging to them. So enzymes, you break down the processed foods more, but it's like being a bulimic. It's like you eat crap and then you shove your finger down your throat. And in the long run, that's not good for you. And the same with enemas. You fix your mistakes by doing enemas. So just so you feel good. And as you do enemas, you become cleaner and cleaner and more sensitive. It just is in the long run, your beauty will fade if you do things like this, just like the bulimic. You will age faster in the long run. Maybe in the short run, you'll look really good and feel really good, but in the long run, you'll crash. So you just want to be careful with that type of thing. Okay. Hi, Matt. My girlfriend has just been diagnosed with breast and bone cancer, and she is hoping for a natural cure. She does not want chemo and radiation. Any info would be appreciated. Okay, so number one, there have been people who have done chemo. They're on their deathbeds. They went through so much suffering and pain due to the chemo. They're lying there saying, I wish I would have just died at home. And maybe they wouldn't even die. Maybe they would have lasted longer. Maybe they wouldn't have been through so much pain and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of chemo. All these questions are coming in on Facebook. I'll hit them in a second. I'm hitting news.therawfoodworld.com/live right now, and then I'll come back to Facebook. But diet is a huge thing that helps people heal from disease. This is the reason why the raw food diet is so popular. And you don't even necessarily need to eat a 100% raw food diet to heal from disease. But the first critical key factor here is to eliminate processed foods. When you start to eliminate processed foods from your intake, you start to purge all sorts of nasty stuff on all levels. And this purging is huge. And this right here alone can just click things into place on a physical, spiritual, emotional health level to where people have time and time again healed from all sorts of degenerative diseases, including cancer. On my website, on our YouTube channel, if you go to that Monarch YouTube channel, you will see many, many interviews of people who have healed from rheumatoid arthritis, MS, all sorts of cancer, stage 3 cancer. I've even heard of stage 4 cancer, so many different things. And the key ingredient is to improve a diet. Now, in order to do this, it's almost like some people have to be like on their deathbed to make serious changes. And we're not even talking about dietary alone. But we all have these patterns to where we'll call them not optimal patterns, things that we do on an ongoing basis that are not ideal for our health, that causes stress. Stress has been shown to suppress white blood cells, for example, or people in grief. And these white blood cells are key in fighting infection and other diseases and things like this. So when you improve your diet, you're forced to make not only physical changes, which are absolutely huge in this process of healing, but spiritual changes are needed too. Because as soon as you change your diet, going against mainstream, everyone's going to think you're insane. And most people can't handle that. And they stray off. They just don't do it. So in order to do this, you break off bad relationships, because then the true colors come out when you start going on a new path of something not the norm. And it's almost like you're forced to break off these unhelpful relationships, or you don't change. Like you either, if you change, there's going to be adversity in a big way. So if you succeed on the diet, automatically these changes happen. It's pretty amazing. I've seen it happen time and time again. Myself is one example. So, Cheryl, the main thing is, don't have to go on a 100% raw food diet, but we've got to eliminate processed foods, only eat cooked whole foods, and high raw. And then that alone can do amazing things. It's like the #1 thing we can do to do this cancer, to heal from cancer. Check with a healthcare practitioner before making any changes, of course. And once you do that, then everything starts to unravel. And of course, obviously, we're doing something in our lifestyle that is not ideal, or why would we have cancer in the first place? For example, maybe you're always angry at people or hating people, or maybe you're always allowing people to walk all over your boundaries and things like this. This is an example. There's many different types of things that can be. Or maybe you're just like always worried or something like this. that's pain and suffering. We gotta like go beyond that. We have cancer now. We've got to, this is like a warning. You've gone this long, here's your warning, and now you got to really make some changes here, or the inevitable is going to happen. And diet is a huge thing. That alone, just by doing the physical act of that, can enable everything else to unfold. And the point of why I'm saying all this, however, there are sometimes things that we know that we are doing that we should not be doing. And even if you improve your diet and you don't stop that, usually the diet thing will just obliterate all of that. But if we hold on to something like that, we can have issues and we might not heal. But generally, from what I've seen, the diet is profound and can do everything. But I'm just putting that side note in. Okay, so I'm going to come to Facebook in a second, guys. I'm just going to answer this one last question. What products from your website work well for a low sugar diet? I contacted customer service and they provided low glycemic options. That's good, which is not what I had in mind. The products I could think of are nuts, unflavored nut butters, seaweed products. Seaweed products are huge. And the Quinti Essential is another big one. But seaweed products, just in general, are extremely healthy. I eat dulse all the time. It's a good tasting seaweed. We want to be eating seaweed if we can. This is a great source of iodine. And iodine is not stored. We need to take it on an ongoing basis. And it's also loaded with other mineral seaweeds from the ocean. The seaweeds we carry are clean, of course, like the Icelandic seaweed. In Japanese cultures, it's associated with longevity. It helps balance the electrolytes, all sorts of different things. They recommended olives, kale chips, bean pastas, and the mock family crust. Those are good. Caitlin also suggested Lakanto. Can you think of anything other products off the top of your head? So Naz, what are you looking for? What are you trying to accomplish here? Do you just want, it seems like they provided you low glycemic foods, like what you're asking for. Nutritional yeast, depends on what the situation is though. And why are we doing low sugar is another question. There's a lot of, okay, so what could be really good is, first off, Quinti Essential is a mineral supplement, and minerals are like one of the biggest deficiencies in the USA because of the depleted soils. And here, Quinti Essential's right there. I usually take it. I take this all the time, not every day. But okay. So in terms of if you're having blood sugar issues, two things that we want to be taking very much so is potassium and magnesium. Potassium is responsible for storing sugar into glycogen within our body, so we can use it for in-between meals. Magnesium is extremely important because it produces an enzyme that lowers blood sugar. And what happens is when we start going deficient in these things, it can actually start impacting our blood sugar levels. So potassium and magnesium are two critical minerals we can be using. And potassium is found in things like green juice, salads. We want to be drinking green juice if we can every single day. The RDA for potassium versus like magnesium is like 10 times more. We need a lot of potassium in order to use it for what we need, such as storing sugar within our bodies. So what happens is we also need insulin for the absorption, the uptake of magnesium and potassium. So if we're insulin resistant, then this can be an issue because we're not absorbing potassium and magnesium, which is actually important for healing the insulin resistance. So what we can do is raise the amount of potassium and magnesium that we're intaking on an ongoing basis. And what that actually does is it lowers the need for insulin. And then when that happens, if you raise these two things, because you have a lower need for insulin, you will have enough insulin now, studies show, like many studies show that this benefit happens with these two minerals. You will have enough insulin to now uptake the potassium and magnesium to create the enzymes to lower blood sugar and also to store sugar as glycogen. So potassium and magnesium are two big ones there. And these things like dandelion greens would be incredible for that. Beet tops is really high in potassium. Avocados are high in potassium. One critical thing that we can do, also Cheryl with your friend, is probably the best thing we can do. The easiest change is eat salads. Like most people on the standard American diet kind of like laugh at vegetables. But if we could, it has no taste. If we can change our taste buds to eating salads, salads do so much. It cleanses stuff out. It makes it so things don't fester, like a fatty liver will help bring the fat out when you start to lose weight and stuff like that. It will protect you from toxins, heavy metals, and things like this. Salads are probably the biggest health secret there is. Even if you're going to eat it with animal protein, salads, eat as much lettuce as you possibly can. Furthermore, lettuce has vitamin E. Vitamin E in a natural form, which most supplements are synthetic and are not ideal. There's so many different components of vitamin E. For example, there's alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and then there's xanthine and selenium in there. There's all these other factors in there too. So vitamin E is also just really good for the heart, getting rid of plaque and stuff like that when it's not in a synthetic form. And actually something that's really high in vitamin E, that would be good, nuts and lettuce, but our peely nuts, which are at cost right now, are really high in vitamin E. It's the highest fat content nut that there is, and that's an excellent food product to take. There's lots to talk about, but let's look at Facebook real quick. See what kind of questions there are here, and then we'll come back. Okay, so someone just got shatavari in today. How do you like to take it? In water? I haven't tasted it yet. Me personally, I will just take things on a spoon and put it in my mouth and then drink it in water. You could do that. Shatavari has been shown in clinical studies to kill all the strains of Candida, albicans, which is the #1, and like the other 5 main strains in a clinical study, just as good as fluconazole, which is the main pharmaceutical drug utilized to combat Candida. And it worked just as well. It's natural without any side effects. You don't become resistant to it. Candida becomes resistant to antibiotics. Also, eliminating sugar is important. There are white blood cells that we have that fight Candida, they fight fungus, bacteria, and viruses. They'll seriously just eat them up. They're called neutrophils. And what happens is when we eat sugar, too much sugar, these specialized white blood cells, what they'll do is they will go after the sugar. And this is why when a person, even on a raw food diet, has a very high sugar diet, what they do is they start to get mucus. They get runny noses. Even I had that when I was doing too much sugar. One reason is because when the neutrophils are busy with the sugar and glucose, they're not fighting infection. They usually fight infection, these white blood cells. So then you get more mucus and things like that. So too much sugar isn't that good. Can you talk about using turpentine, pure guar gum internally and externally? Sure, don't do it. Turpentine. I don't know anything about that. Okay. Hi, Matt. Angela from Toronto. I was wondering if someone that in the past was eating too much sugar, and if it led to diabetes or hypoglycemia, like we were just talking about, can cause damage to their nerves. Can one reverse and fully heal the nerves from past bad habits, not current, being raw now? Are you talking about peripheral neuropathy, where you start to become numb and things like this? When a person becomes diabetic and they mess their bodies up like this, it's stated in these books that B1, fat-soluble vitamins B1 and B12, start to become depleted drastically. And so to reverse this, what we want to be doing is loading up on B1 and B12 if you possibly can, in all forms, in every possible way you possibly can. For example, nutritional yeast is loaded in natural B1. Our nutritional yeast is not fortified like some of these other ones. I would be taking our B12 patches like crazy. And on top of that, we might have some sublingual. I don't know if we have it on our website right now, but I would also be taking sublingual. I would hit it from every angle possible, B1 and B12, while doing a healthy cooked whole, raw or cooked whole foods diet without any starches or sugar. Carbs break, what carbs do, we're talking about bread, pasta, they break down into glucose and fiber, that's sugar. Now if you take fat, fat breaks down into fatty lipids, essential fatty acids. Protein breaks down into amino acids. These help rebuild the body and tissue. Okay, so now let's look at this hypoglycemia situation that we're dealing with here. So when a person becomes hypoglycemia, first off, let's take a look at what this actually means. Most of us have, okay, we usually have like 1.5 gallons of blood within our bodies. And if you were to take someone who has, we have 1.5 gallons of blood in our bodies, you take a teaspoon of sugar. In this 1.5 gallons of blood at any given time, your blood sugar levels would be at about 100. Just a very small amount of sugar. When your sugar goes below 70, you become hypoglycemic. You have like, you get the shakes, you can get anxiety, you're out of your brain, you're not thinking straight, you eat foods like, you know, that you shouldn't be eating, just all sorts of symptoms like this is low. And then you have low energy. I remember in the earlier years when I was doing a raw food diet, I ate so much sugar, it was crazy. I would go to fig trees and eat figs until I couldn't go anymore. And then the next day, at that time in the morning, I would have the shakes. I would need sugar. I had to go to the fig trees and eat a bunch of sugar again. I was hypoglycemic and I didn't even know it. But hypoglycemia is so, even diabetes, all of these things are very easy to correct. David DeLuca, who was at our last retreat, has peripheral neuropathy, was diabetic. He healed his diabetes within 1.5 weeks at our retreat. It was profound. So back to this whole entire hypoglycemic thing. When you go to the hospitals, they do things based off of symptoms. And what they usually recommend when you're hypoglycemia is, okay, your sugar goes up and then it goes down. When it's down at 70, what they recommend is for you to eat candy so you can get it back up in between meals and stuff like this. Now, this isn't really the best way or idea to do this. You're never going to heal from hypoglycemia if you do this type of thing. So what we want to be doing is, first off, we want to, I gotta be careful. We want to be eating less sugar in this issue. So what's happening is when we spike sugar, insulin comes in to bring it down. And sometimes if you have too much sugar, it'll overshoot and it goes too low. Sometimes we're on diabetic medication that makes our blood sugar go too low. So the cause might be that. We might have to lower our medication and things like this. Now there's an opposing hormone to insulin that actually raises blood sugar. Insulin drops it, glucagon raises it. They work against each other. And so instead of taking candy, one thing that we can do is to stimulate glucagon to go to action to raise our blood sugar instead. And the type of food that does that is protein. So what we'd want to be doing is eating protein. And that can actually help raise our blood sugar levels. But we want to be careful here because the medical system is saying you've got to eat in between meals and things like this. Every time we eat, we spike insulin. One key factor for losing weight, for being healthy in the long run, is not to snack in between meals. And one of the recommendations is to, when your blood sugar goes low between meals, to have candy, which is ridiculous. You're never going to heal. So what we want to be doing is trying to eat 3 meals a day. If you can do 2 meals, that's even better. And if you can't go long enough, we want to be eating more fat so you can go longer without eating, if that makes sense. And we don't want to load up on protein to raise glucagon. We just want a certain amount in order to do this. So the key is our diet. Sugar is okay in moderate quantities. We were talking about a teaspoon in our system at any given time is the max. And then anything beyond that is toxic and gets stored as fat. Insulin will store it in fat cells. We've got to make sure we're getting potassium and magnesium so we can actually store the sugar as glycogen. So when in between meals, it can actually release it when we need it. So we don't have to eat candy. So green juice is important. And just all of this together, as crazy as this sounds, it goes totally against the hospital mainstream. Lowering your sugar intake is the way to do this in the long run. And there are certain situations, and before making any changes, go speak to a healthcare practitioner. I'm not a medical doctor or anything like this. Everything's based off of experience. You'll want to, I mean, there's just a few extreme cases you just got to be extremely careful with. You got to slowly do this, like extreme diabetes or something like that. Okay. Let's come back to Facebook. Let's see here. So pretty much for you, the B12 for your nerves and everything like this, and the B1 while eating a healthy diet, void of processed foods. If you're eating a cooked whole foods diet, ideally, we want to be staying away from the cooked whole foods, such as the grains and the baked potatoes, and eating things like eggs, which are the protein that will help with the glucagon and the hypoglycemia, avocado, maybe some raw goat's milk products. Even, I don't like to recommend fish, chicken, turkey, because most people in my industry go crazy. But these meats in small quantities and salads. Salads are key here. Salads are critical. Okay. How can you beat food addiction? I have ate fast food, candy, and soda every day for a long time. I am 100 pounds overweight. Help. Okay, so this is kind of like what we're talking about earlier. So Kimberly here is saying that she can't physically control herself and do this food addiction. She has too much of a food addiction. She can't eat healthy. She's 100 pounds overweight. So what I'm saying is if a person has cancer, you change your diet, your life is on the line. When your life is on the line here, Kimberly, it's a lot easier. So when your life becomes on the line here, then you're forced to do it. And then you start blowing through all these programs. There's like no stopping you, like because your life is on the line. And it's these programs that you're talking about, food addiction. You're saying you physically can't do it, so something is controlling you. You can't do it. You are just admitted here that you don't have control. So what has control over you? So when we take everything by the reins, you are changing your structure on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level. When someone's life is on the line, they have to say no to the food addictions or they're gonna die. It's like you've got to reprogram yourself. And these programs, when you get rid of them, are more profound than you think. What happens to your life. And simply by eating a healthy diet, you have the opportunity to do this. And all you have to do is the physical work, physical act. And then these programs can shed away. It's like kind of being pulled out of the matrix in some sort of level. All the friends that you have, they're gonna think you're crazy, but you continue on regardless of what they say or think. That friend, all these ties of energy drainage. So this whole entire diet thing is huge for physical, emotional, and spiritual health. It's big time. So how do we do this food addiction thing? When you improve your diet, let's say you attempt to improve your diet and you start going for 3 days, you're doing good, but then all of a sudden it gets intense. And then now you start losing control. When you've reached this point, this is like when you can't control yourself, this is the battle right here. This is the point right here that we have to learn and understand. You're doing good for a week, let's say, on your diet, and now all of a sudden something's taking over and you can't control yourself. This is where you need to learn, have patience, and figure it out. So here you are. You've been doing on a diet for 1 week, and now you can't control yourself. You're about to eat pizza or something like that. You just can't control yourself. You want to do this, but you can't do it. Now, what you want to be doing at this moment in time is focusing and feeling everything, the sensation of eating, the thoughts in your mind, the ow feelings, this is really important, the pain and suffering, vibrational feelings that you are feeling at this point in time. All of these different things, get to know it. And when you eat and cheat, or you'll call it, you think you failed and then you go into guilt or whatever, this is actually a success because you actually did good for an entire week. You've improved your diet. Most people never even get to this point of pain and suffering. But pay attention to this point of pain and suffering. And when you're here, get to know it. And then once you fail, which is actually a success, don't go into guilt and feeling bad, woe is me. Go again, start over again. You just pat yourself on the back because you just did really good. This just doesn't happen overnight, breaking programs and addictions. So you come back and do it again. It's almost like you're playing Super Mario Brothers. You get to the dragon, you did really good, and then you died by the dragon. You come back, and then you start again. And each time you get to this point of success, of getting to the very last guy, learn more, feel everything, all the vibrational feelings, this pain and suffering, the thing that's controlling you. You get to know it, and when you get to the point where you get to know it so well that you are okay with this feeling, to where it's not controlling you, it's not getting you to eat, you can actually endure this pain or whatever for the rest of your life if you had to without it making you eat. Then you've broken the program, you've broken the addiction, and then over time, the pain will be completely gone. And now you'll have a new level of health, a new level of spirituality, and a new level of life. And this is physical, emotional, and spiritual all in one. So it's just from the mere act of eating healthy, so many other things happen. And that's what we're talking about here today. It's huge. Back to Facebook. I was also wondering, one of my past enemas I've done out of many, the water was too warm and concerned how it might be affected by my colon and recommendations you would give me for that. Yeah, my recommendation is to wean yourself off colonics. I'm a big fan of using them to heal people from disease, but I can also sense when somebody is reliant on them. And me personally, I was reliant on them for over a decade, and I ran into problems in the long run. Yeah. So I would probably, not that I think I would be, I think I'm a beautiful guy, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying like the beauty aspect in the long run is gonna screw you up. And I feel like I aged probably faster than I would have liked if I would have done it a different way. And don't get me wrong, the enemas and colonics actually helped me in a big way. It's how I succeeded on the raw food diet. It cheats the process. You remove the cravings. It's cheating. But then if you become addicted to it, you're screwed. Excuse me, but I have to use it somehow in the long run. So what I've done is, since it's been 2 years since I've even touched an enema or colonic, I have extremely good functioning with my bowels. I'm in this industry, I gotta share this stuff. And there are certain things that I'm doing to where from here on out, I think the aging process can be, the beauty aging process can be a lot better. For example, I'm not consuming as much sugar as I used to. I eat sugar, don't get me wrong, but I don't do as much as I used to. And also I don't mess around with enemas and chronics anymore. But it's extremely beneficial if done properly and not, if you don't become addicted to it. Okay. We're going to come back to news.therawfoodworld.com/live in a second, everybody. Hi, Matt. My 15-year-old son was just recently diagnosed with glaucoma. Hey, Crystal, can you post that on my Skype from Google so I can see what that is? Which is very rare for his age. His diet is pretty much just a regular American diet. Do you think there is something specific he should be eating or not eating that would help? Well, I've seen many people heal from diseases, and one of the main things we could be doing is eliminating processed foods, refined sugars, processed starches. Bread is processed starch, soda. That's the main thing. What not to do, what we don't eat is more important than what we actually eat to heal from disease. But I have to see what glaucoma is. We're about to find out in a second. There's a little bit of a delay here, so Crystal's probably working on that right now. What are your thoughts on seaweed and toxins? I love seaweed and include seaweed products in my diet now, many dulse kelp. However, I've become increasingly worried about toxins in the ocean pollution finding their way into my seaweed products. Right now, I'm careful to source only seaweed products from the USA. Thanks for your input. Yes, on our website, we have Icelandic seaweed, dulse, and kelp, 2 kinds of kelp. And this is the cleanest oceans of the world. From the Fukushima thing, if you look at the pattern of where it goes, it doesn't go through Iceland. So I would definitely say that this is the cleanest seaweed, and seaweed is critically important in our diets, I feel like. It helps with getting our minerals, our iodine, which is critical for thyroid functioning and many other functions of the body, and things like this. Let me see. Mine's good. Where is my Skype? There it is. A condition of increased pressure within the eyeball, causing gradual loss of sight. Okay. Okay. Read that one more time. Increased pressure within the eyeball. Okay, so Some vegetable juices are extremely good for the eyes. People have even helped their eyesight with carrot, endive, parsley, maybe even alfalfa. Dude, I was just reading stuff about this too. I have to do a little bit more studying to find this out, but I believe it's actually in these papers right here, right here. All right. I've been doing studying on iodine. I'm guessing that that would be good, but I don't want to like state that without being 100% sure. Okay. But why is there pressure? Like, what is the pressure coming from? This is a situation where I would consider enemas because this actually removes pressure. Yeah. So hit me up on Facebook and ask me this question. I'll see what I can find for you. Okay. So the seaweeds are the Icelandic seaweeds on our website. They're available there. Okay. So what do you recommend for chronic constipation and high blood pressure? Already mostly whole food, plant-based, more raw than beef, raw every day. Potato, rice, a lot of cooked foods feel like cement block in my stomach. Okay, so get off the starches and try eggs. Are you willing to do eggs? That's much more gentle and it provides so much nourishment. Both my children, both my daughters are 100% raw and they eat eggs to cover their grounds. It has all the stuff, lots of stuff that they need for growing everything. So I just make sure that they get that. But something that sounds really important. Okay, so this is what you need. Okay, so potassium actually lowers blood pressure and relieves constipation. Green juice, salads, lots of greens. Also, apple cider vinegar. Sometimes we need to acidify ourselves in order to get potassium to be pulled in. If we're too alkaline, like many raw foodists are, and health junkies are, we can run into issues with malabsorption of these things. The stomach has to be a certain pH to where certain enzymes are activated to bring like protein in and things like this. So potassium and apple cider vinegar is so good with there are books written that state that apple cider vinegar is good at helping with both of these things, constipation and high blood pressure. And it's not because of the apple cider vinegar, it's because it helps you retain potassium. When we stress, we produce cortisol. And when we produce cortisol, we lose acid and potassium. So when you give yourself back acid, you retain the potassium. And potassium is critical. It's a relaxer. It's a relaxer that will help you go to the bathroom, relieve constipation, and relax you so your blood pressure goes down. It's a physiological tranquilizer practically. Potassium and magnesium. So what we want to be doing is apple cider vinegar, green juice, avocados. This will also stimulate your gallbladder when you're eating fat and apple cider vinegar, which is actually the bile that is produced is very slippery that actually also helps with constipation. So try that and this should clear up. All right. Back to news.therawfoodworld.com/live where we ask questions here. Okay. Oh, it's a long one. Oh. Okay. Where are we here? That's right, Myra, exactly what I was saying. Okay, Ayaka says, you said about adjusting taste buds to liking salad. I so agree, but also don't you think salad could be very filling? That would be great if it's filling. That's like the issue people have. I usually have it with different mix of dark greens, herbs, and sprouts, sprinkle hemp seeds, dulse, with this great, with coconut oil and apple cider vinegar, and mashed avocado, and I feel so full. I think people who think salad is not enough are just thinking of some lettuce and dressing, which are totally boring for sure. Well, it's filling for you, Ayaka, because you have a healthy diet. When I went on a 100% raw food diet from straight standard American diet, I was starving. I couldn't stop eating, even if I had to, seriously. You know those salads that you bring to a potluck that go in a bowl like the size of this? Like this? Everybody's supposed to eat from the salad bowl? No. One reason at the raw food retreats, why I'm adamant about having unlimited amounts of food, I can't, seriously, I go to a potluck and there's a salad like this for everybody. And it drives me nuts. You leave starving. Anyways. So I would be hungry still after this. What we're dealing with right now is many people on the standard American diet. You blend that salad that you're eating, it will turn into it'll fill this up. It's water. It's like 90% water. People are used to eating McDonald's burgers. That's extremely dense. Or all sorts of processed foods, Twinkies, all of these things. And so, yeah, it's filling to me now. Of course, it's filling to you. Okay, Adrian, I've watched a lot of your hangouts already on YouTube. This is my first one I'm attending live. Awesome, Adrian. Good to see you. All right. Let's see here. Wow, I've been blowing through everything like crazy. All right, guys. So ask your questions so I can answer them for you. Earlier we were talking about healing from, we were talking about white blood cells. And when a person, there's certain types of specialized white blood cells that will act, we were talking about candida. They will kill viruses, bacteria, fungus, candida, and things like this. And in the presence of sugar, when there's too much sugar, a little bit of sugar is okay, but when there's too much sugar, these white blood cells go to work on all the sugar, and then the fighting of infection stops. And this is why people on a raw food diet who eats lots of sugar, or even when I've done it, or people who eat a lot of sugar regular, you have more mucus on an ongoing basis. You might get sick more often and things like this. Because these specialized white blood cells are not fighting the actual infections and bacteria and fungus within our bodies, but they're going to work on the sugar. It's almost like they seriously just eat up bacteria, some of these white blood cells. We were talking earlier, they're called neutrophils. So one thing that happens a lot of the time is people generally take, when they're sick, vitamin C. Because it's just a known fact. You take vitamin C when you're sick to help aid like healing an infection or whatever. So why? What's going on there? Well, what's happening is these specialized white blood cells that we're talking about, they're called neutrophils. I think that's how you spell it, something like that. When you take what these neutrophils, what they do is they have receptors for vitamin C. And what the white blood cells utilize vitamin C to fight infection. So when you're sick and stuff like this, when you take a blood test, your vitamin C levels are low because these white blood cells are pulling the vitamin C to go fight the infection. And this is why it's actually important to eat lots of vitamin C when you're sick and things like that to aid in this process. Other things that you can do when you're sick is acidify the body, maybe with apple cider vinegar and stuff like that. That's another, in clinical studies, it shows when you're sick or have the flu, acidifying the body with vitamin C can actually be very beneficial. I was watching this one doctor who said that in the 1940s, they were using diluted hydrochloric acid injections to aid in that process of healing, but apple cider vinegar would work just as well. We were also talking about lower blood sugar levels earlier, and we were talking about how magnesium and potassium are extremely beneficial for diabetics, people with insulin issues, insulin resistance, or hypoglycemia. Potassium, what it does is it will store sugar as glycogen, so you can actually have stored sugar to utilize when you're not eating. Magnesium produces an enzyme that lowers blood sugar. Clinical studies that show that just eating these two minerals alone can help the situation in all these situations. Insulin is needed to uptake these two minerals into the cell. And if you're insulin resistant, then you're gonna have an issue with this. And just by raising potassium and magnesium, the need for insulin goes down to where you might have enough insulin to uptake these things to help with the situation. Doing this along with an improved diet where you're doing less carbs and less sugar, it's like a for sure way to get over these hypoglycemia or diabetic insulin resistant situations. The diet is key, eliminating processed foods, refined sugar, and carbs. Other situations that might cause this issue from these earlier questions is too much calcium. It's called hypercalcemia. When you have too much calcium, it binds up magnesium because they work together. And magnesium produces an enzyme that lowers blood sugar. So if you have too much calcium, your magnesium is going to be locked up. So another clinical study shows that if you take vitamin D3 with vitamin K2, when you take D3, the absorption of calcium happens 20 times faster. You get 20 times more calcium absorption. And the K2 brings it to where it needs to go. You need the K2, or you don't want that calcium floating around like crazy. And then the K2 will bring it in the bones, take it out of the arteries and things like this. And then what that will do is free up the magnesium to where you can actually produce those enzymes to where you can actually lower your blood sugar levels. So D3 and K2 are extremely important for that. Also for immunity, vitamin D3 is very important. They're related to all this stuff. Let's see what other people are saying now. Okay, quit eating meat. Will my acid levels change? What would be best? Yes, you probably, yeah, your acid levels will change. It will actually probably be a good thing. One major cause of losing too much acid is stress. When you stress too much, acid is a byproduct of creating cortisol, and you lose all this acid, and everyone's so stressed out. That's the issue here. I'm not against meat. I think it's okay. You got to be careful when you're saying you're quitting to eat meat. Are you still eating bread? Because you'd be a million times better off eliminating bread than eliminating meat. Bread and refined sugar are way more damaging than eating meat. You want to be eliminating those things. And then you can look at meat later, if that makes sense. But if you wanted to eliminate meat, these two the refined sugars and processed starches, oxidized cholesterol, things like this, we want to get rid of hydrogenated oils. Okay, so you're not eating those things. Okay, so she's not eating the bread and sugar. This is good. What you could do is replace meat with eggs and maybe small amounts of raw goat's dairy. The clean, pasture-raised, grass-fed, no antibiotics injected, all of these things. But eggs are much more gentle and could be very beneficial. It won't be such like a spike. It would be like a transition, if that makes sense. But eggs, guys, I don't eat eggs. But you don't need to be 100% raw. Eggs are very nourishing. They will produce so much of the nourishment in a gentle way that you need. It's like covering your grounds. If you take it to raw foodism, like I did for a very long period of time, it's like if you go back, eggs even mess you up. But eggs are very nutritious. They're very gentle. They have everything you need. On a 100% raw food diet, you can't get everything you need without supplementing. So what sounds more natural? Eating eggs or guzzling down B12 patches? I mean, a lot of people are deficient in B12, but I'm just saying, putting B12 patches on, because what am I going to do? Take crazy amounts of nutritional yeast? Or taking omega, DHA, and EPA products. These are good for everybody, but I'm just trying to prove a point here. Also, on a raw food diet, you can't even get fat soluble vitamins. You need to be drinking vegetable juice. What if you don't have the availability of vegetable juice? All the vegetables, for example, vitamin A. The fat soluble vitamin A is retinol. What we're eating as raw foodists are like beta carotene and things like this. It's not the full complex. They're pre-vitamins. And when you eat them, they convert into retinol within the human body. Vitamin K1 converts into K2. We can't get K2 on a raw food diet unless you're taking our D3 patches. So what happens in the human body is only a certain percentage of all the vitamin A that you're eating from your carrots or your salad, a small percentage is going to convert into retinol. So that's why we need to be taking on a raw food diet vegetable juices, because you're taking so much vitamin A in that you're going to get the amount you need to convert into retinol, which is the full complex. I mean, we live in a world where people are needing to do vegetable juices, are needing to supplement and do all these things anyways. But I'm saying, like, you know, you don't need, like, why? I'm a big fan of doing really high raw. I'm 100% raw foodist, and doing eggs. For some people, that's too much of a diet change. You won't be able to handle it. You'll pig out on like 20 eggs a day or something. You don't even need to go that far. I'm just saying, I think the ideal diet is something like that. I think you may have spoken about this before in a past video, but I could really use the advice. My husband, who has been a long-term smoker, has been trying to quit, but suffers from bad moody swings, anger and anxiety, of course, while withdrawing, and he gives up after a few weeks due to it. He will start quitting again, but then cycles again and breaks down and smokes again. Are there any foods and supplements that will help with withdrawal? It's just like the food addiction that we were talking about earlier. You have to go through the withdrawal process. There's like no avoiding it. It's like saying, I'm going to cut my finger. You have to go through the process of blood and pain. It's like physical. You can't avoid it. But in addition to that, it's more than just physical withdrawals. There's a another component going on there. And it's just like we were talking about earlier with the food addiction. If you are just tuning in, you'd want to watch earlier in here when we were talking about food addictions. It's just by improving your diet, people are healing from diseases. Not only physically are they healing their bodies, but spiritually also, because they're getting through these programs. They're becoming stronger. Relationships of people just fall away that are not serving them and are draining their energy. So as you're saying here, he's been trying to quit, but suffers from bad mood swings, anger and anxiety, and breaks down. That right there, that suffering that he's going through, is the thing that he has to overcome. It has nothing even to do with the cigarette smoking. If you think about it, that suffering is there on an ongoing basis for the person who's on the food addiction and for the smoker. And the reason, what happens is just a very small tinge of that ow feeling, of that suffering in terms of what we're talking about here, gets them to go smoke a cigarette or gets them to eat a Twinkie, right? And that is the thing that's controlling them. And then what happens is you improve your diet, trying to become free of this, and then all hell breaks loose. Because now you're fighting against this thing, and it becomes more intense because now, as I said earlier, it's like a battle. So when you start to fight back and stop the cigarette smoking, or when you try to improve your diet by eliminating it completely, that's the thing that's getting you to eat poorly in the first place or getting you to smoke poorly in the first place. It's a small little thing that it's just like a feeling, like a button that's being pushed and you're like, dang, and then you eat or smoke. Now all hell breaks loose. And sometimes it takes someone getting cancer to force themselves to improve their diet, so let's back up a second here. As we were saying earlier, you have food addictions. We're playing Super Mario Brothers here. You improve your diet for a week. You're doing great, right? And now you get to that big dragon, and the dragon is there, and you lose control. There's suffering and pain going on there, withdrawals and addiction, whatever you want to call it, but suffering and pain to where you're weak. You can't control yourself. And then you eat the pizza or smoke the cigarette, and then you go through regret and guilt. Don't go through regret and guilt, because that's just like it's a success that you just did. You just went an entire week. And when you're at this point, understand it, feel it. The hunger feeling, the wanting to smoke, every last aspect, and the suffering, emotional pain feeling at the same time. You get to the point where you do this process 1 week, you fail, 1 week, you fail. You learn more every single time you get to this point. Getting to this point is a huge success. Nobody gets there. It's huge. And then you get to know this thing so well that you can endure it forever if you needed to. You now have control over it, and it does not control you. And so you don't eat because you feel that feeling, or you feel that withdrawal, or whatever it is. And then that doesn't even matter. It doesn't even impact you anymore. And then over time, that feeling just goes away completely. It doesn't even, it's not even existing. Now you have conquered. So improving your diet or quitting to smoke or anything like this, just by doing the physical act, changes your life forever on more than one level. It's huge. What would be the best dairy source? Okay, so there's different kinds of dairy. There's all these chemicals and antibiotics that are creating crazy amounts of estrogen that are being put into animals, and that will come out in the milk. So we got to stay away from stuff on the market counters. There are, if it were up to me, the best type of milk would be goats, raw goat's cheese, raw goat's milk, raw goat's sour cream, whatever, straight from a farmer. That would be number one. If you wanted cow's milk, there are different types of cows. There's ones that are called A2 cows. And these A2 cows produce less casein. And it's the casein that causes all the mucus and all sorts of things. And we also have to watch out for those antibiotics and stuff like that. There's also a lot of BPA in cow's milk a lot of the time, just from pumping them through the plastic tubes. There were clinical studies showing that what they did was they measured the BPA levels of people that were drinking milk from, like, they were delivered from the milkman. And so what they did was they took the milk out of plastic containers and put it in glass containers, but there was still the same amount of BPA in their blood. So what they discovered was the BPA was coming from the tubes where they were pumping the cow. And BPA is a cause for weight gain. So, you know, you just got to go to the source and figure out the best milk there is. Okay, I drink whole raw cow's milk, but I've heard there are great benefits in goats, sheep, camel. I've heard of camel is one best. Yeah, goats and sheep are good. It's more, there's less casein. It's the size of a human versus like a big cow, etc., etc. There's no more questions, I guess. All right. Any more questions? Go to news.therawfoodworld.com/live. There we go. Okay. Oh, I just had it refresh. Oh, here we go. Here's all the questions. Okay. Oh, man. I had to hit refresh. Okay. Is yucca syrup or powder a safe sweetener to use on a candida diet since it functions as a prebiotic? That's a good question. You can see how it works for you. Ideally, we want to eliminate sugar completely. If you're on this candida diet, I would definitely get our shatavari. As I stated earlier, the clinical studies says it takes out all of those different things just as well as the actual antibiotic that is utilized for candida. That I think would be big. Also, vitamin C could be good. As we were talking about these white blood cells, and no sugar, vitamin C will actually aid in that process. Camu powder, our camu powder would be really good. Be careful of camu powders. There's ones with maltodextrin out there which will actually work against your candida goals. Can the kidneys get congested, toxic with heavy metals? How best to clean the kidneys in general and also from heavy metals? Please cover foods, herbs, liquids, movement, any avenues that can help. The most frustrating way the dirty kidneys have been showing up is through eczema. What would be good as a follow-up to keep from coming back? Cleansing quarterly, monthly? Okay, first off, diet is really important. But other things, like you want to take diuretics that help flush the kidneys, stinging nettles, asparagus, green juice, cucumber juice, probably celery juice would be good. Iodine is really good for detoxifying heavy metals, but you got to be careful. If you do too much too fast, your eczema might get worse. It's a detoxifier. This is why seaweeds are so good. It's a gentle way to do it. And Your eczema might get worse and then get better after you get rid of all that stuff. You might want to just take smaller doses if you're going to do something like that. Enemas might be good on occasion here. How do you know it's heavy metals is a good question. Romania is a good herb for the kidneys, cleansing the kidneys out. Just lots of liquid is good. Thanks, Mark. Joe says, hey, Matt, about a month before the retreat, I began lowering my sugar intake. Fruit was, this is going to be good. Joe was just at our last retreat. He was on the verge of a major breakthrough. He actually did have a breakthrough. I hope he comes back. Fruit was the main component of my diet, and I was eating quite large amounts, particularly of bananas and figs. You've mentioned that more than 1 teaspoon of sugar in the body is not good for us. Okay. And more than 2 teaspoons of sugar is probably more than two teaspoons into fat. So my question is, how much sugar would an average size fully ripe banana, and does the size of a person affect the amount of, yes, because there's more blood in a person who's bigger, we're able to have without causing problems? Hope all is well in Vilcabamba. Okay, so if you were to take Pepsi, we're dealing with 3 tablespoons of sugar right there. So a banana, if you were to blend a banana down, like that's like a lot liquid, right? How much, if you blended a banana, what would that be like? A 1/4 cup? So if you were to blend a banana, you could probably fit that in a 1/4 cup, is my guess. So how much of that 1/4 cup is sugar is the question. And if you think about, I'm mainly talking about like white sugar. And also when you do fruit, there's a difference than doing like a soda, because there's fiber, number one, and then there's also polyphenols that block the absorption of sugar. So the best source of sugar is fruit. I eat fruit every day. I stay away from high glycemic lately. For example, during the retreat, I'll eat crazy amounts of sugar, but then the retreat's over, I barely have any sugar again. When I run, I drink carrot juice. I do strawberries as my main source of fruit. Every once in a while, the cherries are in season. They're a little fun. I'll do them here and there. But in general, I don't do much sugar. I do very little. But fruit is a little different ballgame than other types of refined sugar. Studies have actually shown that they had 3 tablespoons of sugar without anything. It spiked insulin and went way down, blood sugar. And then when they added blueberries to it, you would think that the spike would go higher because there's more sugar, but it actually curbed the refined sugar spike to where it didn't go as high and it didn't dip as low. So in actuality, the blueberries helped lower the glucose response. And there's so many other beneficial parts to fruit. But with that being said, I still feel that it's a good idea as on an ongoing basis not to do too much sugar. If you look at, okay, one of my big fans in the raw foods movement, first off, there's like no raw food eaters in this movement anymore. I'm like one of the last ones standing. A lot of these guys a lot of them already admit they're 80% raw, all the old pioneers. And I know a lot of these other guys, I know what they're doing, but regardless. But Dr. Norman Walker was a 100% raw food eater. He lived to be 99. Most raw foodists check out earlier. In his recipe book, so he even actually talks about egg yolks. So I think he might have even eaten that. But anyways, if you look at his meals, what he would eat in a general day, he was actually doing a very balanced, healthy raw food diet. Like his meal would not have 30 bananas. It would just be like a banana with a slice of this fruit, a kiwi or something like this. It's like normal amounts of fruit that humans are supposed to be eating. In the long run, I feel that it's good to lower your sugar intake. Just from experience, like I have less mucus now. Matt, will you consider becoming a breatharian one day to rise even higher on a spiritual level? No. I might, no. Okay, first off, diet can only take you so far spiritually. And then it's capped off. You get, that's your everyday now. You feel, that's why I was so, people get so pumped on the raw food diet, because it does do something. We were just talking about this during this hangout. It's almost like you have the potential to break free of certain programs and matrix crap that are cleaned on to us. And that alone is big. And also you purge the body of all this dense waste. So you are less dense in your cells. So you do experience more spiritual energy. But that doesn't mean you're a spiritual person. Your vehicle is just more sensitive to spiritual energy. It means nothing more. It doesn't mean you're a spiritual person. If an evil person has that advantage, that's not good. But anyways, myself, for example, when I went 100% raw years ago, all of a sudden my third eye even opened at one point after doing crazy cleansing a year into it. It's been there ever since. And, you know, when I was younger, my parents would worry and scream about money all the time. And I'm like, I never want to be like that. And from a young age, I was like always in this mission to be self-sufficient financially. And I got lost in greed at one point. My body can experience and feel spiritual energy a little bit more. My third eye opened, but I got lost in greed to the point where I lost everything I had. And that's when my spiritual path began, hitting rock bottom. I had a good heart and was helping people and stuff like that, but there was an aspect of me that wasn't necessarily ideal. And then when I hit rock bottom, when my life was actually on the line, kind of say a messenger came to me and showed me two paths. Do you want to continue on this path that you're doing right now, or do you want to go on that path? And so I took that path, and I loved it so much that's like the most important thing to me. I'm willing to give up, and I have gave up every physical aspect. Nothing was more important to me than this. Willing to give up everything for, you know, the creator. So that right there, you don't need to become a breatharian to get even higher on a spiritual level. It's the path of a spiritual warrior to where you are gifted instantly. When the cares of this world doesn't over-consume you, and you're, you know, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but it's just a matter of, bam, you can experience a new level of life. And this whole entire raw food diet that we've been talking about could be a huge key, like it was for me in the beginning. Didn't make me a spiritual person because I became more vibratory. I was still the jerk off I was. But it led me to where I am now. Matt Monarch. I watched you back in 2008, 2009 when you were a jerk off. No, I'm just kidding. Back before you moved to Vilcabamba. I lost contact with you in 2012 by doing so. I felt something was missing that whole time. It was you two. I just now decided to look you up, and to my surprise, you're on now. We're the reason you became a veggie head. I thank you so much. I appreciate your wisdom. You guys bring me a sense of community that I need. Awesome. That is from some guy. Okay, so let's see here. We're out of questions. Maybe if I refresh again. Let's see down here. Another good high source of potassium is shaga mushroom, according to this person that did the research. Cool. I missed some of the past several weeks of your live videos. Did you stop doing raw vegan ketogenic diet? What was your finding doing it, since I'm epileptic and tempted to try it in the future? Yeah, I did it, and it changed my life forever in a good, positive way, because now I don't do raw vegan ketogenic anymore, even though it kind of is, but not. I lowered my sugar intake drastically, which I feel like I've benefited from. Romina says, hi, Matt. Eggs are not a good source of omega-3, are they? It has ALA, and if they're fed flax seeds, it could be. I recently realized, and ALA is converted into DHA and EPA, that I'm not eating anything with omega-3, and I cannot find algae-based supplements where I live. There's only krill and fish oil. Do that if you don't get sick. I would get sick if I did that stuff. Although I'm a vegetarian, I'm considering taking krill oil. Absolutely do it. What's your opinion on krill? It's got omega, DHA, and EPA. I would do it. Extremely good. I just received my CBD oil. How do you personally take it? Just a few drops under the tongue? Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It depends what you want to do. Like, some people take huge dosage and they consider it as a therapeutic dosage, and some people titrate it, which is all that's really needed to get those CBD receptors going. It's called titration. And then, yeah, you get the benefit. So if it's a money thing, I would just do the titrating aspect. But there's certain people who are trying to take therapeutic dosages. But what I would do is not take it all at once necessarily if you're doing a therapeutic dosage, just so none of it goes to waste. Meaning, like, let's say you fill up all the receptors, and now any excess, what is it going to do for you? Even though there's a lot of receptors in many different areas. I mean, I'm not an expert in the field. This is, you're asking me I'm just kind of putting it out there. Me personally, I got a lot of the 1,000 milligram bottles before the illegal date of a couple Fridays ago. And I'm going to be experimenting taking high dosages just to see what happens. You don't get high off the stuff. That's not the reason why I'm doing that. It's just for just to learn about it, to see the health benefits, things like this. But for most people, the CBD oil that we just offered, there's nothing else out there like it. You're not going to find a raw CBD oil. It doesn't have fillers and stuff like this. Just titrate it for now and let it last a long time. I mean, if you got, like, there are people who are getting 12 bottles of the 1,000 milligram. You know, you can do a little bit more if that's the case. So it all depends on what you're trying to accomplish and things like that. But this CBD oil is extremely bioavailable and things like that. It's 9:30 here. It's been an hour and a half, guys, and there's no more questions. Anyways, let's talk a little bit more, and then we'll call it a night. The March retreat is less than 2 months away. We've canceled the September retreat. Just because I might be doing some traveling and going back and forth might be just a little bit too insane during that time, but I'm not 100% sure. We just decided to cancel the September one. So we have March, June, and December. Every one of these retreats has at least 10 people signed up already. The March retreat has 33 people signed up right now, and there's like 2 to 3 rooms left. So if you wanted to come in just less than 2 months from now, there's still space. It's gonna be amazing. So March is just around the corner. It's gonna sell out. Right now we have our, if anybody wants to ask any last questions, go to news.therawfoodworld.com/live or come to my profile on Facebook. February's at-cost specials just got launched yesterday. This morning actually. We've got peeling nuts are back. One of my favorite nuts on the planet, high in vitamin E. That will actually help with constipation too, for that question asked about constipation. No nut has more fat in it than peeling nuts. I'm sending out 60 pounds here, well, one for our retreat peely demos, but also everyone on this land lives off of the peely chocolate I make. It's really good. Also, we have Mega Hydrates at cost and Crystal Energy. We have the Berkeley bars. We actually have these Valentine's Day raw chocolate gift boxes that I'm going to be announcing in 2 days. Those are available right now in our store. They look really good. What else is new? Peely nuts, P-I-L-I. P-I-L-I. Oh, the chocolate tree products are at cost. You want to make any normal meal into a gourmet raw food meal, you want to be getting their onion wraps and their tomato wraps. You could literally just take a salad and put it in the tomato wrap, or guacamole, make cashew cheese, whatever, and it's like a gourmet meal. It's like a burrito practically. And then their onion bread is so tasteful, it's off the hook. It's like a miniature wrap. It's just like, it's so good. It's oily somehow, it's just like so good. And then also their nori nachos. Elise says, how much spending money is good to bring to the retreat? Me personally, I like to, probably travel just in case of emergency or something like that with, a few $100, $500 at the most. There are certain things that we're doing at the retreat that does cost a little bit extra. The things that are extra, I'll mention right now. The San Pedro ceremony is optional. It's $100. There's a new bike tour that we do. We did at this retreat for the first time. You want to be riding a bike through the valleys of Vilcabamba, Ecuador, over rivers, through bridges, through small towns, sugarcane juice making properties. It's just beautiful, amazing. I should do this during off times of the retreat. So it was just amazing. And there was like 20 of us probably who did it last retreat, going down not crazy hills, but like, it was like mainly downhill. There's certain times where you have to go uphill, but it's fun. Horseback riding, it was like $30. Horseback riding was like $40. What else? Massages. Everyone loves our massage therapists we have here. They're $25 each. Hyperbaric chambers, $40. I mean, everything else is free. These are just optional, additional expenses. I think that's it though. That's all the additional expenses. And then there's the taxis, whatever. fireworks show that we had at this last retreat was insane. Did I mention this? Probably, yeah, in the last hangout. Insane. You look up at this. Ugh, one of the most beautiful moments I've ever seen. Okay, here we go. We've got Anne Schleiss here, who was running away on horses at the last retreat, and what else did she do? Oh yeah, I remember. Okay. I was juicing the whole time while watching your live broadcast. You're such an inspiration. Every day I miss being at your retreat. Green drinks, chairs. Sweet. Is the Sweat Lodge extra? We didn't charge for the Sweat Lodge last time, but anybody who wanted to contribute a $10 tip to Carlitos did, which was pretty much everybody, because of all the times we receive benefits, we don't even realize we're receiving them. But it is a profound, the Sweat Lodge that we do here is not available anywhere. It's that simple. And I can't really say much more than that. You just have to trust me on that. Same with the San Pedro. And it's not, none of these things are necessary for any of this. Just there's a lot of potential that I witnessed and saw, and it's an amazing thing. The retreats are like an extremely healing adventure. You got to put your all in it. And if you put your all in it, I cannot even express what it can do for you. Any more questions? I enjoy these hangouts. I could just sit here forever, but there's no more questions. Guess it's time to call it a night. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Every Tuesday night we do these. If you are not on our newsletter list, you want to be on it, go to therawfoodworld.com, and there's many different areas to put your email in the newsletter. And if you are on our newsletter list and you're not getting your emails, Facebook me or write customer service, and I'll put you on my special email list to where it bypasses stuff. Link. All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.